Chapter 111. Olivia became agitated upon hearing Everly's words. An ominous glint danced in Olivia's eyes as she said aloud, "Connor is innocent. But my dead child is innocent, too. The person who should have died is him." She rubbed her throbbing chest with a contorted expression. "If he hadn't been born, my child wouldn't have died." "Silly girl. Why do you have such extreme thoughts? Liv, listen to me, I am a realist, but I do believe in fate. Everything that's happening is destined to be. Your baby has become an angel sooner than most people. If you look into the sky, he might be watching you. He wants you to live a good life, not waste your time doing the things you will regret later on. Think about the hardships you've gone through. I bet you can't bring yourself to see others experience the same thing, do you?" Everly asked. Olivia looked back at Everly icily. "Do you know what I went through the past year? Why does my family have to be ruined? Marina is living happily with her family, and Ethan can do anything he wants. All I want is to have them have a taste of their medicine tenfold." "Liv." Everly gazed at her concernedly. Olivia suddenly broke into a smile. "Don't give me that look. I won't do anything until Dad regains his consciousness. Liv, I know that I'm not in a position to say anything because I didn't experience the same situation you did. All I wish for is for you to be healthy. Keep your cool," Everly said. "Don't worry, I am as calm as ever right now." Everly was in a distress. She didn't know what was running in Olivia's mind, but she couldn't do anything about it either. When she left, she heard Olivia humming a lullaby. When Olivia was pregnant, she bought a lot of toys and downloaded lullabies on her playlist. At that time, Everly teased, "Your baby isn't out yet, and you already learned so many lullabies. Be careful not to fall asleep." Olivia rubbed her belly with a gentle smile. "It'll be too late to learn it after the baby is born. I'll be a total mess. It's my first time becoming a mother. Of course, I should be prepared. He can actually feel it. He smiled whenever I hum the songs. He doesn't kick me either. I think he's going to be a sweet boy that cares for his mother." Everly chuckled. "You're pretty. It's fine as long as he looks like you or his father. I'm looking forward to meeting him already." Olivia anticipated the day that had never come. Little did she know that Ethan, who hadn't bothered her for days, was on the other side of the globe. He was in a life-threatening situation. A masked Ethan leapt off the bridge and a rain of bullets showered from the bridge. Red smeared across the surface of the water. "He won't be able to get far. After him," instructed one of the pursuers. Ethan swam out of the river, covering the wound on his right arm while reaching the shore. A cube box was in his tight grasp. He expressed relief, muttering, "Jethro, are you watching over me? See, I got it back for you." Chapter 112. A few days ago, Ethan found Leo, but he didn't inform Olivia about it. He flew to another country. He had something to settle there. But it was also because of something else that was important. He wanted to take Leo back to the country personally. He figured that Olivia would be happy to see Leo. Noticing the smile on his face, Ethan quickly shook that idea off. He thought, whether she'll be happy or not, it doesn't matter to me. I found Leo because I want to take control of her life and death. That way, it'll be easier to torture her. Ethan spent a few more days abroad. He suddenly received news of Leo's disappearance. They had reached an agreement before this. Ethan sent Jeff's medical reports to Leo, who shared his professional opinion about it and agreed to perform the surgery. Yet, Leo vanished in thin air when Ethan was going to take him back to the country. Brent reminded Ethan, "Mr. Miller, Leo's acting weird." Ethan appeared calm, but his eyes were dangerously icy. "He fooled us." Obviously, Leo revealed his whereabouts to them and was acting agreeable. Ethan was here to personally escort Leo but was attacked by surprise. Now that Leo had disappeared, it was evident that he was fooling Ethan. He's the first to reject the Miller Group. Brent inwardly wished Leo luck. Ethan ordered indifferently, "Spread the news on the dark web that I'm offering a bounty worth 1 million on Leo. I don't care if he's captured alive or dead." "Okay, but what about Mrs. Miller?" Brent knew that things were going rigid between Olivia and Ethan. Jeff was the factor sustaining their relationship. If Ethan failed to keep his promise, their relationship would turn worse. Let's talk about that when we return, Ethan replied. It had been days since he last met Olivia. He wondered if the wound on her eyebrow had healed. He was worried that it would leave a scar. At that moment, he wished he could meet her at that instant. Tell her to pick me up from the airport, he said. Yes, sir. At the same time, Olivia was looking after Jeff at the hospital. Kelvin relayed Ethan's message to her. Suppressing the resentment in her, she used the calmest tone ever to say, "Okay." The caregiver had taken good care of Jeff. He was sleeping soundly in bed. However, he needed the medicines and nutrient fluid to sustain himself. So he appeared skinnier than before. When Olivia was wiping his hands with a cloth, she noticed that his muscles were becoming loose. Chapter 113. Jeff survived the car crash, so Ethan provoked him. That resulted in Jeff getting a heart attack. Jeff was in a coma in the end. Olivia tightened her fists as resentment flared in her eyes. It was getting late. Kelvin drove her to the airport. She had a simple meal at the airport. It didn't matter to her if Jeff was able to regain his consciousness. As long as she was alive, she would never let Ethan and the others live in peace. She wouldn't be able to live long anyway. So she didn't mind the idea of bringing a few people down to rock bottom with her. Olivia waited in the waiting room for a while. She checked the landing hour through the schedule to head out of the room 5 minutes before the plane landed. It had been sunny without snowfall in Aldenvine for the past 2 days. Thus, the plane landed on time. Ethan took the VIP exit out. When Olivia was going to walk up to him, she noticed the person walking next to him. It was Chris. Although she had met him only once, she would never forget him. Back then, it was Chris who picked Chloe up from Fordham residence. The man Chloe could never get over was naturally not bad. She was willing to forsake everything behind to leave with him. Ethan and Chris walked side by side. Objectively speaking, Jeff and Chris were equally handsome. The only difference was their aura. Jeff had a gentle and graceful demeanor, yet Chris was shrouded by oppressive air. Chris was looking at Olivia with sharp gazes, sending chills biting her skin. It was as though a beast was eyeing her. She was very young when he came to Fordham residence back then. She wondered if he could recognize her. Soon, she knew that he could recognize her. He stopped in front of her. Miss Fordham, waiting for someone. Olivia didn't know how to face him at this moment. It was supposed to be a grudge between the older generation. But as time passed, she felt that he was the person who stole Chloe from her, turning her into a motherless child. Yes, she replied indifferently and glanced at Ethan. Perhaps guilt was pricking Chris' conscience as he tried to appear harmless. He softened his tone. Your mother has been mentioning you a lot these years. Now that we're back, feel free to visit us at any time. You can meet her anytime you want. Okay. Olivia shifted her gaze onto Ethan, who seemed paler than usual. Together with those eye bags, she could tell that he didn't rest up well for the past 2 days. Chris was now Ethan's father-in-law. She wondered how he would act in front of his ex-wife when his father-in-law was around. After all, Chris was the aggressive type. If Ethan hurt Marina, Chris would definitely come at Ethan with a knife. Olivia didn't utter a word. She was waiting for Ethan to react. Then, he proved to her that promises and sweet nothings could never prevail over reality. He merely glanced at her before looking away, treating her like a passerby. Chris bid her goodbye out of courtesy, yet Ethan strode by her expressionlessly. The cold breeze brushing her cheeks reminded her of the reality check. Olivia understood what Ethan meant by that. He didn't want to expose their relationship to Chris. Once they left, she took another way out of the airport. As soon as she opened the car door, she was pulled into an embrace. Chapter 114. Olivia knew who it was without taking a look at the man. Ethan was wearing a suit that perfectly outlined his built figure. The glint in his eyes was dangerous, as always. She could recognize him through his sharp jaw alone, too. His cedar scent wafted her nose, creating an intimate atmosphere in the back seat. She stifled the urge to shove him away for her big plans. She broke the silence first. Where have you been? Now that she had gotten over him, she showed no interest in his life. She wouldn't take notice of his social media updates nor check his Twitter account repeatedly, let alone click his profile picture again and again. Had Ethan not informed her to pick him up from the airport, she wouldn't have known that he had been abroad. Work. It was a succinct answer. He wanted to talk about Leo, but it would ruin the atmosphere. Olivia was sitting on his lap. Her body was warming his thighs. In addition to the closed space, their intimate posture was a fluttering scene to behold. The temptation was urging him to do something more. His finger traced upward along her neck, sending tingling heat to her skin. It finally stopped at her eyebrow. He observed her cheek carefully as his voice softened. Is it healed? As the lighting flowed through the window, he noticed a scar on top of her eyebrow. It was barely visible without a closer look. His coarse fingertip rubbed her wound softly. Thank you for what you did that day. His breath brushed her forehead lightly. Olivia thought that he was being unusually gentle to her because she saved Connor. She was suddenly intrigued to know Ethan's reaction when she killed Connor one day. He wouldn't be as gentle as he was right now, for sure. She began to look forward to that day. She wanted him to know how it felt like to lose his loved one. Olivia replied indifferently, "It's nothing. I was once a mother, too." Ethan's arms tightened around her waist when he heard that. She continued, "Any updates about Leo's whereabouts?" His eyebrows creased. He recounted the whole story without hiding anything. "I've announced a bounty on him. We'll find him soon." She took it as an excuse because she had expected this coming. She thought, he wants Dad to die. Why will he spend the effort to look for Leo? He gave me his word back then so that I wouldn't get in his way. What a great actor you are, Ethan Miller. Mockery tinged her gazes. Meanwhile, Ethan took her silence as a disappointment, so he comforted her, "I will find him." Okay. She didn't want to continue that boring topic anymore, so she switched the subject. It's Connor's birthday party in 2 days. Can I join? Her child passed away on Connor's birthday. Ethan was aware that her child's death had always been her sore spot. She raised her head. The street lights reflected in her dark eyes as she licked her dry lips. It's been a year. I think it's time for me to move on. Chapter 115. Her eyes met Ethan's deep gaze. A faint light shone on his face. It cast a glow on half his face while the other half was shrouded in shadow. It reflected his conflicting personality. He could be an angel sometimes. But he could also be a demon. Olivia was not sure if he would agree to her request. It was his child's first birthday party, after all. His child, which he had with another woman. Their engagement party was postponed. But Marina brought the birthday party forward to announce her status and identity to the world. She had already sent out invitations to every rich and powerful person long ago. She wanted everyone to know. It was apparent that the ex-wife would not be welcomed at the party. Ethan did not say anything. But his naturally prideful temperament made her more nervous than ever. She didn't even realize that sweat was seeping out of her clenched fists. He looked at her seriously and said, "Fine." Her whole body relaxed after she got a positive answer. She dared not let too many emotions slip before Ethan. His enigmatic eyes seemingly saw through all her schemes. The car arrived at the Miller residence quickly. She knew what he had in mind. Kelvin had already opened the door for her. It wasn't snowing tonight, but the wind was strong. The cold winds blew at her from all directions. Ethan did not walk as fast as he normally did. Instead, he was waiting for her at a short distance. He only started to walk again after he saw that she had gotten out of the car. Olivia followed behind him with steady steps. She did not have pleasant memories at the Miller residence. But she had no choice but to follow through for the sake of her upcoming plan. The door to the second floor opened. She followed while dragging her feet. As soon as she entered the room, her body was pressed against the wall by Ethan. "Ev." She choked on her words as Ethan sealed her lips with a kiss. His movements were rough and without care. He was like a typhoon that wanted to destroy her. Olivia did not understand why he came looking for her as soon as he came back. She was his enemy. Why didn't he go to his new lover instead? Didn't he say that she was bony? Ethan unzipped her down jacket while she was still zoned out. As expected, there was a sweater underneath the jacket. But she felt exposed as soon as the jacket was unzipped. Olivia managed to push him away with great effort. Her hands were pushing against his chest. I know you're in a hurry, but please slow down, Mr. Miller. Ethan's hoarse voice came from the darkness. I have a lot of patience tonight, Olivia. He had plenty of time to strip her down, even if she had as many layers as an onion. Let me take a bath first. I've been at the hospital the entire day. I don't mind. Olivia did not believe for a second that he wasn't having perverted thoughts. She pushed him off her and said, just for a bit. Olivia quickly ran to the bathroom. She was trying to think of a way to refuse his advances politely. As the door was about to close, a slipper was stuck at the edge. Ethan's looming body squeezed into the bathroom immediately after. Let's bathe together. He casually took off his suit and revealed his white shirt. He started to unbutton his shirt. As he unbuttoned his collar, it looked as if his self-control left him, and he was replaced by a devil. His dark eyes were focused on her face. Then, he said, from your expression, I'd say that you have something to say to me. Olivia quickly tried to come up with an excuse. How would I? She was pulled into his arms before she could finish her sentence. At that, Olivia's weak body lost balance. And she grabbed at his shirt helplessly. He then held onto her waist, which finally stopped her wobbling. After she found her footing, she instinctively tried to move back, but she was forced onto the bathroom sink by Ethan. Chapter 116. Ethan placed his hands on both sides of her. He leaned in slightly and trapped her. He loved the feeling of being in control of others. And Olivia was like his prey with nowhere to run. He looked down at her with an aggressive look. He lifted her chin with one of his hands and kissed her. If you have any complaints, suck it up. He was a tyrant, emotionless and unhinged. Suddenly, Olivia noticed a blood stain on his left arm. The stain was slowly growing larger on his shirt. She finally found an excuse to stop this. She quickly pushed him back and said, "You're hurt." Ethan subconsciously tried to hide from her prying gaze. "It's nothing, just a scratch. You're bleeding so much. There's no way that's a small wound. You must have broken some stitches. We need to get it bandaged now." He raised his eyebrows. "You do it," he said. She didn't mind helping him bandage his wound. It was better than having sex with him. She was able to hold him off from having sex with her for the rest of the night with that excuse. Soon, it was Connor's first birthday party. The party was set on a cruise ship. Marina had picked the location herself. She probably wanted to rub her victory in Olivia's face. This was where she won the battle a year ago. Even now, when looking at the ocean, Olivia could still vividly remember Ethan swimming decisively toward Marina. She could also recall sinking into the bottom of the ocean. She felt so helpless as the ocean swallowed her up back then. The sun was setting. Kelvin came to get her as promised. He was still as talkative as ever. "Mrs. Miller, the cruise ship is going to be so lively tonight. There will be a lot of activities. A fireworks show is also happening later." He meant for Olivia to enjoy herself tonight. She had had a tough year. But he neglected the fact that the celebration tonight was meant for Ethan and Marina. It had nothing to do with her. Olivia chatted with Kelvin half-heartedly for a bit. She was the last one to board the ship. It was to avoid meeting the Carltons, as that would have been awkward. Ethan was unexpectedly looking out for her. Kelvin had gotten used to seeing Olivia in down jackets. His eyes glowed in surprise when he saw her in an evening gown. "Mrs. Miller, you look gorgeous today." She had never accompanied Ethan to any events in the 3 years she was with him. Naturally, it meant that she never had the chance to wear an evening gown. She dressed herself up today. She even put on heels. She quickly attracted the gazes of men and the jealousy of women. Most people did not know who she was. Many men approached her to hit on her. Callista was mad with anger. She's still as much of a show-off as ever. So disgusting. Why are you so mad at her, Callista? She seems fine to me. She's pretty and has a great figure. She isn't wearing anything outrageous either. Callista replied, "It's Connor's first birthday party today. She's wearing a black gown and a black veil. Did she think she was attending a funeral?" She snorted. "Stop the nonsense, Callista. Marina would beat the hell out of you if she heard what you said. Don't ruin this happy occasion with your foul mouth." Chapter 117. Callista was still discontent. She hated the fact that Olivia became the center of attention wherever she went. Calvin walked up to Olivia and said, "Hey. Fancy seeing you at these types of events." "Hey, Calvin," Olivia responded courteously. "I didn't like events like these in the past. And after the Fordhams went bankrupt, I never got the chance to come to one. You could spend $500 million like it was nothing. If you don't even get to go to events like this, I think most people on this ship haven't either." Calvin knew about her relationship with Ethan, but he kept it to himself. He only winked at her in secret. It would seem like he found something on the security cameras back then. Olivia had an idea of what it was. Before Olivia could say anything, Callista said in a mocking tone, "Didn't I tell you, Calvin? Olivia would at least get with a rich old man. She has the looks for it." "Olivia, I haven't heard about the passing of any rich old man, though. Counting down the days of your rich old husband. Aren't you a wicked woman?" From Callista's perspective, Olivia must have gotten with a rich old man, which was why she kept her man a secret. Why wouldn't she flaunt her man if he was a rich heir? "Stop talking nonsense in public, Callista," Calvin said. He glared at her. His attitude upset her. "Calvin, why are you so protective of her? Are you planning to marry her after her husband dies? Your father will not allow that to happen. Stop spouting nonsense. You should head in first, Olivia." "It's cold on the deck," Calvin suggested. That wasn't a good place to talk. Olivia also didn't want to deal with Callista. Callista had been after her like a dog on a bone. She nodded and left. "Calvin, you've got your eyes on her, haven't you? I know that you wrote her a love letter in secret back in school." Calvin looked on as Olivia left. It didn't matter if it was now or then. She wasn't someone that he was good enough for. During the school years, he was one of the many people that admired her. That was not to say that he was completely infatuated with her. But he had a genuine affection for her when they were still students. Now that everyone had gotten into the workforce, there was only more work to look forward to. The pure feelings from the adolescent years were long gone. They were buried deep in his heart, never to surface again. Now that he had found out about Olivia's identity, his respect for her only grew. He exchanged a few words with others briefly and went looking for her. Marina was not happy to see Olivia. Her expression was full of rage. Whenever she closed her eyes, she could still see the image of Olivia smearing her face with batter and beating her up. It was absolutely absurd. On the other hand, Chloe was delighted to see Olivia. Her face lit up when she saw her. She quickly made her way toward Olivia. "I'm so happy you could make it, Liv. Why did you cut your hair short for no reason? But then again, you have good genes. So you look good either way." Chloe's eagerness used to be the maternal love she craved as a kid. Back then, whenever she had a fever, she would yearn for Chloe's embrace. But she left her and went overseas. She became Marina's stepmother. Olivia was long past that. She even had a thing or two to say to Chloe. "Does it really matter to you whether I have long or short hair?" Olivia looked at Chloe calmly and continued, "Mrs. Carlton, you never even sent me a postcard throughout these years. Now, you're trying to play the part of a loving mother. Aren't you ashamed? Anyway, your sudden display of concern is so embarrassing to me that I could die." Chapter 118. What did you call me? Chloe looked at Olivia in disbelief. "Mrs. Carlton, did you forget that you divorced my father years ago? Your husband is now Mr. Carlton. Am I mistaken to call you Mrs. Carlton?" This was the first time Olivia had been so cold to Chloe. Even during the time Chloe met her after she came back from overseas, Olivia had been gentle. Now, it was as if she was a cold and sharpened blade. "Liv, you've changed. How can you say that? I am still your mother, after all." "Yes, I've changed. I've only come to realize that humans are despicable and that human nature is ugly and selfish. If I had known this earlier, I wouldn't have been missing my mother all those years. I wouldn't have spent years waiting for someone who would never return. Liv, I know I've let you down. But now that I'm back, I'll do everything in my power to make it up to you." Olivia gazed at Chloe's face. She didn't remember how Chloe looked when she was still a child. She looked largely the same as she was in the pictures. There were only some traces of aging. But she felt completely different from the mother in her memories. When you wanted to leave, you forgot that I existed. But now you claim to want to compensate me. Mrs. Carlton, have you ever thought that perhaps I don't want your compensation? You weren't there when I needed you most. Now that I've survived that, nothing you give me would make me forget that. Liv, Mrs. Carlton, your daughter is over there. I am not worthy of your love. There were people in the world who would give anything up for love. Chloe was such a person. She didn't love Jeff. So, when Chris came to her, she threw everything away and left with him. All these years, she went radio silent. She didn't even call once, let alone a word of concern for Olivia. Now that the years have passed, she seemed to have remembered that she had a daughter and claimed to want to compensate her. Olivia no longer cared about that. She looked on at the fancy hall. People's voices reverberated within the walls. It was loud and lively. She wondered if all of these people with dignified appearances had darkness hidden within their hearts. Right now, she no longer needed a family. Nor did she need love. She only wanted to do one thing. That is to cause Ethan pain. She wanted to cause the kind of pain he would never forget, a pain that would follow him for the rest of his life. A smile appeared on her face when she thought about that. Ethan had noticed Olivia as soon as she arrived. He had prepared several evening gowns for her since she said she wanted to come. The gowns came in many colors. But none of them were black. Olivia was wearing a black fitted floor-length gown. Her hair was held in place with hair gel. She was wearing a black veil on her head. It was made with translucent material and decorated with tiny jewels. They would glitter whenever light shone on them. Olivia also wore a pair of diamond earrings. They were simple and elegant. She exuded an air of solidarity, like a black rose in the rain. She looked like she needed a hug but also like she'd claw at those who came close. Olivia looked like an exotic flower that you could only admire from afar. It was as if she felt Ethan's gaze. She raised her glass of wine at him and smiled. "You're Olivia, right?" A cheerful voice beside her said. She turned away from Ethan to look at the person beside her. It was a man that was around her age. He wore a black suit. He looked like a young prince favored by the king. He might not be the most intimidating, but he was surely the prettiest and most delicate. "You are." The young man began to feel nervous when Olivia looked at him. He quickly introduced himself. "I am Colin Moriarty. We met when we were kids. I was chased up a tree by your cat and dared not come down." Chapter 119. His description jolted Olivia's memory. She had met many people with weird habits. One of Ethan's friends was a health nut. While everyone else drank absinthe on ice, he would be drinking detox blends in his cold cup. When other people were having fun with pretty ladies, he would be wearing an eye mask and having a footbath. He would also mutter, "If you don't take care of your health now, you'll be suffering from illnesses when you get older." Colin was the weirdest person she knew other than that health nut. He was morbidly afraid of furry animals with sharp teeth. He used to follow Michael to Jeff's birthday parties. But he would always be chased up a tree by Olivia's cat, Snowball. A group of children would laugh at him from below. Only Olivia would help him by grabbing Snowball. She would then coax him with a smile. "Don't be afraid, I have him now. Give me your hand. I'll help you down." "Oh, it's you. Are you still afraid of cats?" The memory of that incident brought a smile to Olivia's face. "I adopted a few cats at home to overcome my fear. I'm over that now. Anyway, is Snowball still doing well?" Her expression darkened. Snowball was a 13-year-old cat. Olivia was pregnant when the Fordhams went bankrupt. Then Jeff had a car accident. When she went to get Snowball, she was nowhere to be found. She's no longer here. Maybe she became a stray, or she could be dead. She had wanted to bring Snowball with her when she got married to Ethan, but he didn't like furry little animals. So she didn't bring it up. Colin saw her disappointed expression and said, "I picked up a white cat the year before. She looked quite old. I don't know if she's your Snowball, though." Emotion sparked on Olivia's face. "Do you have any pictures?" "Yeah." Colin quickly found the picture on his phone. In the picture, A white cat was lying down under a red plum tree. Her blue eyes were looking at the plum blossoms. Olivia was excited. Snowball had a small part of her ear bitten off by a rat when she was a stray. It was her most defining feature. I came across her when she was wandering on the streets. I saw that her ear looked like the cat I met in my childhood, so I took her in. I didn't expect her to really be your cat. I still have plenty of videos of her. Do you want to take a look? Olivia sat on a round couch. Her eyes were completely focused on the videos of Snowball. I can see that you have taken good care of her. She is quite old now, and yet she's still so lively. Her coat is lustrous. Colin smiled and said, she's very well behaved. She loves to stay under that tree. It was as if she was waiting for someone. I didn't know before, but I think now I know she's waiting for you. Olivia stared blankly at the cat under the plum tree. Tears were welling up in her eyes. She brushed her fingers on the cold and lifeless screen. It was as if she could feel Snowball's soft body. It is my fault. I lost her. She lost the Fordham family, Jeff, and her unborn child. She even lost Snowball. Don't worry, Olivia. She's living a good life. I can bring her over to you when you have time. Olivia shook her head and said, no need. You can take care of her. I can't really take care of her now. That's fine for me. Can I have your contact information? So that I can send you videos of Snowball next time. Olivia wanted to refuse, but she thought there was no need because she didn't intend to leave this ship alive. She didn't have the heart to refuse. He had helped her take care of Snowball for so long, after all. So she took her phone out and exchanged contact information with him. She even added him on WhatsApp on the spot. Her series of actions was especially insulting to Marina. She tried to agitate. Ethan. Look at her. I told you she's a restless one. How much time has it been? She has already added a man on WhatsApp. Chapter 120. Shut up, Ethan said. Ethan, we're the most compatible with each other. Olivia only loves your money. She can get with anyone as long as the price is right. Ethan ignored her and left. Marina was angry. She walked toward the other side of the hall with her wine in hand. She whispered something into Callista's ears. Callista was all talk. She had never actually hurt anyone before. She had a nervous expression and said, Are we really doing this? Marina smiled and said, I have always trusted you, Callista. I believe you're destined to do great things. If you can take care of this for me, I can promise you that there will be something for the Davises at the Oakland hospital. I will not let you down, Marina. Marina smiled with satisfaction. This was reality. People would do anything to satiate their greed. Olivia, how are you going to fight me with neither the resources nor anyone to back you up? Marina thought to herself. Olivia sat with Colin for a while longer. Colin was very gentlemanly and considerate. Nothing is happening at this hour. The buffet on this ship is decent. Do you want to grab some together, Olivia? There is still a lot I haven't told you about Snowball. Olivia looked at the time. It was indeed still early. It was not yet time for the main event. Okay. They went to the buffet dining hall together. Ethan's eyes were fixed on Olivia. It was getting on his nerves that she was interacting with another man. He was already regretting his decision to let her come out. He knew that she would be the center of attention no matter where she went. He grunted and said, Find out where that man came from. Yes, Mr. Miller. Violin music was playing in the restaurant. There was a variety of foods from different countries. Colin went to the dessert table and picked up some mousse cakes for Olivia. I remember that you used to love cake, Olivia. You have a good memory, but old people do not like sweet things. Are you kidding me, Olivia? You're only 21 years old this year, right? You're still in your prime. Olivia had skipped a few grades in school, so she graduated from university earlier than her peers. The laws of Arlandia allowed marriage at the age of 18. Olivia was shocked to hear her own age. So, I am only 21 years old, she said. That's right. Most people haven't graduated from university yet at this age. You're still in your prime years. You're not old. Colin had a smile on his face. He had the energy of a 17-year-old teenager. Olivia was only a few years older than him, but she felt old inside. It was as if nothing excited her anymore. She lowered her head to look at what he brought her. Those cakes were indeed things that she loved 3 years ago. It had only been 3 years. She has been through too much. Look, Olivia, isn't the snow pretty? Colin was full of energy. He was talking about food a second ago, and now his attention had turned to the snow outside the window. He pulled Olivia onto the deck joyfully. The snow was quietly falling under the warm yellow lights. Olivia reached out, and a snowflake fell on her palm. She remembered that day last year. It also snowed then. Marina had stood next to her on the deck. She had an arrogant smile on her face. Marina had said, "Why don't we have a bet? Who would Ethan rescue if we both fell into the ocean at the same time?" The memory of that day pained Olivia deeply. She grabbed the railing tightly. Her eyes were filled with despair. Her expression scared Colin. "What's wrong, Olivia?" Olivia's thoughts drifted away from that painful memory. She looked at the endless expanse of the ocean. It looked like a monster that could devour anything in the night. She concealed the pain in her eyes and said in a gentle tone, "Colin, Snowball does not have long to live. She is already an old cat." Colin looked at her, confused. "Don't worry, Olivia, I'll take good care of her. When she passes, can you please bury her under the plum tree at the Fordham residence?"